Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. All right, so it's basically the same thing for the last couple of weeks as the hood slides off. It's all good. It's basically been the same thing the last couple of weeks where we go with Bruins, we go Celtics, and then some football. And we're pretty much going to do the same thing this week. It's a little different. Got some praise for the Bruins. We get to cover the Super Bowl. That's coming up soon, so this Sunday. So let's get right into it. So the Bruins, man, I have no one here to sit here and just like shake their head and like struggle through me talking about the Bruins this week. In the past couple of weeks when I talk about them, no one's really interested. So it's just me right now. It's all good. So they're on a little bit of a streak here. I'm actually really impressed with them because when I first talked about them going into the season a couple weeks ago, I was a little concerned. I was a little skeptical on how the season was going to go because they lost Torrey Krug, who was arguably their best offensive defenseman. Charlie McAvoy had the potential to definitely be, or has the potential to be better than Krug. But at the time of him leaving, Torrey Krug was the best offensive defenseman on the Bruins. You lose Zdeno Chara, that's your heart and soul. He might not be what he used to be, but he's still a pretty good defender. He can play on the power play, the penalty kill, and that's your captain. And you let him go to a team that has really had your number since, I don't know, a decade ago, back in, 2012, I think it was, when the Capitals just came in and just took you out in the playoffs. So, and ever since then, they've kind of owned you. They've won a title. You haven't. So that's tough to see. Seeing Chara go anywhere was tough to see, but just going to the Capitals on top of it was a tough pill to swallow. But the Bruins have figured something out here, and I don't know what the formula is. I don't know what is going on in that locker room. No one really knows because no one can be there still with COVID. But I'm so impressed with this team. I really am. They're off to a really hot start. They're one of the best power play units, best penalty kill units. There really haven't been any games where I've watched and I've thought to myself afterwards, that was disgusting. Like, I don't know, like, what I just saw, like, what did I just witness? This team, no matter what, win or lose, they've fought. And it was a rough scene, in this recent game against the Capitals, not the last one, but the one before, where they were down 3-0. They come back, tie the game, where it looked like they weren't going to get a point out of it. And they do end up losing in overtime, but they got a point. When you lose in overtime, you still get a point on your overall record. If you lose in regulation, you get nothing. So, for everyone that doesn't know hockey. So, to come back when you're down that big and make something out of it and basically carry that momentum into the next game against the Capitals again, back-to-back, on the road, and just take them out 5-3 with, I think it was 4 unanswered goals in the third period alone. That's crazy. That's one of the best teams in the league. That's the best team in your division with these altered divisions this year, where they play teams multiple times, but it's only like a 6-team rotation. That's extremely impressive. They've beaten the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are always a tough play. They've just hung around with the Philadelphia 76ers, Philadelphia Flyers. I'm already thinking about basketball, and that's a really good team too. They took you out. Last year in the bubble. So to be doing what they're doing currently at the pace that they're doing it with as little help that they have, on paper, they got worse this offseason, not better. They got extremely worse. So to be where they are right now is so impressive. And they're just getting David Pastrnak back on top of it, who's arguably maybe not their best player, but definitely their best goal scorer. So, and he already has 3 goals on top of it. He's got to figure some other things out and hopefully not get injured again. But some of these new guys that they've needed to step up are really stepping it up, and that's a major plus, and you love to see it. The one thing I'll say, being cautious, as we all know, or we should know with hockey, is things come in spurts. They come and go. So if they're doing this right now, what are they going to do in a month from now? What are they going to do 2 months from now? If they make the playoffs, they should make the playoffs. But if they make the playoffs, what are they going to do there? Are they going to cool off? Are they going to stay hot? Because at some point, there's a wall. There's going to be a wall that comes. It happens every year for these teams. And you either break through that wall going into the playoffs or you don't. So that's something to really monitor as the weeks go on, as the months go on for the Bruins. And hopefully they can add something at the trade deadline. I don't know when exactly that's going to be this season. Everything's all mixed up, as I've said multiple times, for example, with the schedule. I don't know. I'm pleasantly surprised. The expectations were definitely lower than this, and I feel like that's sometimes a good thing, because then you get situations like this where everything's clicking for the team and the fans are really happy. I'm sure if the fans could actually be at the games, that would add a completely different component to it all. But unfortunately, we can't do that this season. So we got to sit back at home, watch this team. Right now, they're the best thing going for Boston sports. Obviously, it's only the Bruins and the Celtics, and not to take anything away from the Celtics, but we kind of expected them to, they were going to take a step back also with potential losses on the team, even though I still think Gordon Hayward was a addition by subtraction. But it's just to have a team step up. I feel like that's been the epitome of Boston sports, besides the Patriots, for the past almost 20 years, just low expectations for the other teams, and they come through. So we'll figure it out as the season goes on. The Bruins, they need to do something, because this team it's nearing its end of its potential. Some of these guys are getting older. They obviously they let Chara go mainly because of his age. They felt like his time was up. So I don't know if Patrice Bergeron is very far behind that. And they need to make some sort of acquisition either before or at the trade deadline to just keep this push going. I don't want to get ahead of myself and already talk about potential trades, because I honestly wouldn't know what I'm talking about at this point, because it's still way too early. But go Bruins, let's keep it going. It's great to see, and I hope they can keep it up. There's going to be a lot more videos to be said and to talk about them. They're made to talk about the way this team is playing, and hopefully most of them, if not all of them, are on the side of praising this team instead of bashing them. Because as much as I do bash these teams, Bill Belichick with the Patriots, whatever the Red Sox, whatever the hell they're doing over there, I'm a Boston sports fan. I want to see them succeed. So I hope the Bruins can keep it up, and let's move on to the Celtics. So Celtics, as of this recording, when this is being made, the Celtics are on the second game of their road trip, West Coast road trip. They're playing the Sacramento Kings tonight. It's a back-to-back. They just beat the Golden State Warriors last night, which was a great win. It was a great back-and-forth game. Steph Curry showing how he plays. I always love seeing him against the Celtics. That one year when the Warriors were on their run, they were undefeated and all that, and the Celtics pushed them on the road. They almost beat them there. And then they came here and they beat them. They're one of the few teams to actually beat the Warriors in that 73-win season. It's just fun to watch Steph Curry. He's, even before the Warriors became the super team and all that, years ago, I was a huge Steph Curry fan. I loved him. Obviously, a lot of people feel like that's a bandwagon thing to say, but he's an all-timer at this rate. He's an all-time. He's one of the, I think he reached 17,000 points. What was that last night? So that's huge for, with all the injuries he's dealt with. Imagine not having to deal with these injuries. I feel like we say this about too many players in sports. Imagine they didn't get suspended, or imagine they didn't get injured, or there wasn't a shortened season, this or that. Steph Curry is one of those guys. Just he started off with all those injuries, and he's just so fun to watch. And maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe he doesn't become this player without having to fight through those injuries, but we'll never know. But as of right now, he might be the MVP. It depends on what happens with the Warriors, but he's definitely going to be in the conversation. He's there. I mean, there's a lot of high scoring players this year, and he's one of them. But just to not have your second best player on the team in Klay Thompson, you have a rookie that you're trying to incorporate in James Wiseman. There's a lot of praise for the Warriors this season, especially in the tough Western Conference. I'm not expecting anything out of them. Trust me. It's going to be a rough year. I still think they can push for a playoff spot. I don't know if they're going to make it, but Steph Curry is he's playing at an MVP level right now, and even playing against him, I love to see it. But enough of praising the opposition. Let's go to the Celtics. So Jason Tatum's doing his thing. Another 27 points. Love to see that. Kemba Walker at 19. It was a nice bounce back. It was a tough loss to the Lakers before this last game. That's a game that could have gone either way. And it was said on the last one with Ado, it was said on the last video, last podcast, AD was going to be the deciding factor, and he was. This is why the Celtics need to go out and get a big man. A defensive, rebounding, can still give you like 10 to 15 points at least a night, big man. And that's why I keep harping on Andre Drummond. Like, we just need a guy like that, because players like Joel Embiid beforehand, and now most recently Anthony Davis, this is what they're going to do to your team when you have Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson as your main go-to big men. And don't get me wrong, I like Daniel Tice, I like Tristan Thompson, but they're not going to get the job done against, all NBA level talent like those guys. And those are the players that you're going to end up playing if you want to make a deep run into the playoffs, maybe go to the finals. These are the players you're going to see. So you have the wings to guard LeBron. You when I say guard LeBron, you're not going to stop him. You can only hope to contain him and limit what he can do at any sort of level, whatever limiting LeBron means. But if you can stop AD, which is possible, he's a lot more human than LeBron. So if you can stop AD on any given night, just once or twice, even in a 7-game series, you have a chance to win that series. You just got to get the guy to do that. But anyways, enough. I can't. These trade scenarios, I'm not even basing it off rumors at this point, so I'm going to move on. That was a good win by the Celtics. They were, sputtering a little bit. I didn't like what I was seeing leading up to last night. That was like a really big game for them. That's like the most simple way I can put it. It was against a Western Conference team, not a rival, not really affecting the Eastern Conference standings, but they needed some sort of bounce back. And that was a good team to do it against. And they showed that they can hang on to leads late in games. There's this thing with the Celtics, or I think we've all seen it at this point, where these late game comebacks by other teams where the Celtics most of the time play down to the other team's level. It's not ideal. Whether they end up winning the game or not, it's not something you want to see. So getting that done was great. But they got to do it again. This is another really big game, and it's not against as good of an opponent. It's not really against a good opponent at all. It's the Sacramento Kings. But you're on a back-to-back. You haven't had a lot of these. You're on the West Coast. You're in Cali. There's the time difference. There's all these factors. You got to win. You got to win. You got to keep the momentum going, because not only is that going to be a good sign for your fans that are watching back home, you have way tougher opponents coming up. You have the Clippers at some point. You have the Jazz. Those are two of the top teams in the NBA. So you have to get the job done against these these inferior teams to you. These teams are inferior to you. Even the Warriors right now, they are an inferior team to the Celtics. So you got to get the job done against teams like that. I don't want to see what's happening with whatever happened with the Pistons earlier in the season where you gave them their first win. I'm pretty sure they're still struggling to even reach 5 at this point. I don't even know. Pistons are awful. So to lose to a team like that, I don't want to live back on that. That was rough, but that would basically be the equivalent of losing to the Kings tonight. I know, again, it's a back-to-back. They might be tired. It's tough, but you got to get it done. You got to give us a sign that this is something that's sustainable, and I got to see something out of Kemba Walker because that game against the Lakers, I know he had the 19 points last night, but that game against the Lakers was rough. 1 of 11, he ended up being 1 of 12, but that 12th shot was that wide open miss from maybe 10 feet away, 15 max step back that he gave himself to win that game. I don't want to say cardiac Kemba's dead, but I mean, that is rough to see. You're paying this man over $30 million a year. I don't want to deem it like a Gordon Hayward situation again, because it's not. Like, arthritis in the knees is really tough to deal with, but it's not just completely destroying your ankle. But at the same time, I don't know what's up with the Celtics and this curse of the point guards that they have, because Kyrie comes here. Even before he forces his way out, he had those knee injuries, he had the screw and all that, and he was just out, that first season. He was out. We didn't have him in the playoffs, and who knows what happens if the Celtics had him. So I don't know what's going on. Someone has put some sort of curse on the Celtics with these high-paid all-star level point guards, but I'm hoping Kemba can work his way through it, because he's not a shooting 1 of 12 guy. Like, that's just not what it is. It was a great steal that he got to set them up for that situation, but you got to execute. They had them. They had the Lakers at the end of that game, and they just couldn't get it done. And you hate to see it, but that's just how it is. So they play, what time is it right now? 7:33. They play in about 2.5 hours, 10 o'clock tip. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay up and watch that tonight, but those West Coast games have always been tough for me. But we'll see. They need to get it done. That's all it is. I'm not going to say, I'm never going to say the Celtics can lose. Like, it's okay to lose. But tonight is really big. It's a really big game. That's just all it is. But anyways, we got another thing. This is the biggest thing to talk about. We got the Super Bowl this coming Sunday. Woo! I can't wait. I cannot wait. We talked about this last week. Tom Brady's the GOAT. I'm going to say it again next week. Win or lose, he's the GOAT. But I'm not going to go crazy about that right now. I don't want to hurt anyone's eardrums. This game it's going to be so much fun. Like, if you don't normally tune into the Super Bowl, which I don't know who doesn't do that. If you find yourself watching these videos, especially this one right now, or listening to this podcast, whichever way you listen or watch this, I'm assuming you watch the Super Bowl pretty much every year. So I'm talking to whoever might not right now. You got to watch this. This is gonna be one for maybe the decade. This is gonna be a really good one. I know as Patriots fans, we have some of the best Super Bowl moments to look back on. Malcolm Butler, the comeback against the Falcons, even the first one way back. But this one it's going to be a shootout. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. It's going to come down to whoever makes the least amount of mistakes. That's just what it is. Or basically what I'm saying is whichever team protects their quarterback the most from making those kinds of mistakes, turnovers, fumbles, interceptions, penalties, whatever. And Tampa Bay already has a pretty significant head start in that sense against the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are already without their left tackle and their right tackle. That's huge. I know, like, everyone pays attention, Tyreek Hill, playmakers, Travis Kelce, Mahomes is a beast, all these guys. But it really, a team outside of your quarterback, your team starts and ends with your offensive line. So to be without two of the most important positions for the quarterback, the left tackle and the right tackle, to be without them that's a big blow to any team. And now I heard today that they might be without their starting center. So if those three are out, that's probably the third most important to me, if not possibly the most important. You have your guards, that's great for your running backs, but to not have your tackles and potentially your center, that's a major thing to deal with. So I mean, I want to see like a real game. I want to see everyone at their best. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that, and you'll always hear fans of either team whenever something like this happens, whenever there's an injury, we weren't at our best. We didn't imagine if we had all these guys, we weren't injured, but it's just something you got to deal with, especially with COVID. So you want to see everyone at their full potential, but advantage Tampa. That's what it is. Advantage Tampa Bay. Advantage Tom Brady. And you never want to give Tom Brady any sort of advantage with what we've seen over the past 20-plus years. So on top of it, they're home. The first team to host the Super Bowl is in the Super Bowl. That's crazy. The weather doesn't look like it's going to be too great. As last time that I checked, as of earlier today, they said thunderstorms. It's like 70, 75 degrees in thunderstorms. That sucks, but what are you going to do? It's football. You play through pretty much a foot of snow if you can. So I don't really see that being a big deal. They're going to try to get as many fans as they can. That's typical. It's Florida. What did we expect? That's a whole different conversation. But I don't know. I'm normally not a betting man, but if I have as many drinks as I did for the NFC Championship game, I might throw some bills around like I did for that. I saw it. I think they're even. I think it's plus 145. Last time I checked, wherever I was looking, at least on the website that I use, Tampa Bay was plus 145, which is that's huge. We're gonna confirmation on that right now. I'm sure it's different. 145 plus 145. Oh man, I'm having a few drinks might push me over the edge on that one. Honestly, I don't know how that's gonna go. I don't know how that's gonna look, but it worked out for me last time. So, Bovada, yeah. I think I use Pure Wage. It's something around here, and I'm sure it's pretty much the same thing. If you look at Vegas or whatever, it's plus 145. So that makes sense. It's going to be a close game. I think the Chiefs are probably like that means they're probably minus like 160, 150 something like that. So I'm not going to bet against Tom Brady. You can't bet against Tom Brady. That's the best ever. It's the best to do it. Any sport, that's the best to do it. Sorry, I'll freak out next time. I can't do that right now. I want to save it because if he ends up losing, I'm gonna obviously be a little bummed, but I'm still gonna say he's the best ever. Don't get it twisted. Like that's just how it is. This is one of the biggest Tom Brady fans you'll meet around, and I say that I don't want to hear, oh, you bet against him, you pick the Packers, you pick this team or that. You said Washington was giving him a hard time. Yeah, I picked those teams. It wasn't because of Tom Brady. It was just because of the teams. I just figured that's just the way it was going to go. But he's made it this far. I think everyone is a Tom Brady fan this week. I'd say. I don't know if any team wants to see, any fan of any other team wants to see the Chiefs go back to back. I know it's tough, but seeing him let loose in Tampa, I think he's gained even more fans throughout like the country and the world. Oh, sorry about that. The country and the world. Lost my voice there for a second. Because he doesn't have to go with the Patriot way. He's not the Bill Belichick guy anymore. He's able to say what he wants to say for the most part. There's like a video of him recently in the Tampa Bay locker room, just saying some things. I forget exactly what the words were, but it was funny. It was fun. And people love to see that. So instead of the uptight guy, they're getting this like vibing like 43-year-old guy. Like, it's hilarious. So, yeah, I mean, if you're not cheering for Tom Brady, I don't know where you're at, because I don't want to see the Chiefs go back-to-back. That's a tough scene. The last team to go back-to-back in Super Bowls was the Patriots. It was their third one, their third Super Bowl. So we'll talk about this more. I gave you my favorite. I'm picking Tampa Bay. If I didn't make that clear enough, Tampa Bay. I can't give you a score because that's not the kind of sports guy I am. I'll try to come up with something real quick. I'm going to say 30-27, some basic thing like that. 3-point game. It's going to be close. It's going to be a really good game. I'm going to say 30-27. If not, maybe like 34-30. One of those two. It's going to be something like along those lines. But just watch closely for that Tampa Bay D-line, which is really the strength, their defensive line and their linebackers, to get after Patrick Mahomes. They're going to make him run. He's going to have to move. He's going to have to use those legs this week in the Super Bowl. He's not going to be able to just sit there comfortably. I don't think he was going to be able to do that in the first place. But now without that offensive line fully intact, it's going to be a really tough game for him. So, he's going to throw it up and hope Tyreek's going to catch it somewhere down the field at this point. That's what it's going to be against that secondary. But if they do what they did last week against Aaron Rodgers, Tampa's defense, they're winning this game. It might not even be as close as I said it might be with those score predictions if they get after him like they did last week. So, or 2 weeks ago. Sorry, it would be 2 weeks ago. Pro Bowl, no Pro Bowl, week off. Oh, we're all mixed up there. But yeah, go Bruins, go Celtics, go Tom Brady. I can't believe we're still saying this around this time of the year, even though he's not a Patriot. Go Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. See you all next time.